So I'm actually in a space called Studio. It's owned it is owned by Tishman Speyer.
Nice.
And Tishman Speyer owns a lot of spaces around New York City, and actually this particular location, Studio, is also in three other locations around New York. It's in DC, it's all around the US, but they're also in Brazil. And so we spoke about incubator spaces before, places where you can do business development, use it as a co working space, so on and so forth. And this is exactly what that is. So, right now, I will just quickly show you guys around. This is their video conferencing and actually recording studio room that a lot of people use for exactly what we're doing, recording the podcast. I'm gonna take the live around the room too. So it's a beautiful space, super cool setup, and there's lots of room.
Yeah, and there's privacy.
There's a lot of privacy, so you don't feel like you are like interrupting anything and nobody's going to interrupt you. And so I reserved the room for this today. But since we are doing this for LinkedIn and Instagram, it's always a tricky setup, like just using multiple devices. But where CAT is, there's also another space. So we are going to try to launch something with them, work together somehow using their space for some of the very same things that we were talking to you guys about. You know, just expanding what we're doing with our own businesses and also networking. And in this particular location, shout out to Studio because they have Columbia's Entrepreneur Lab here. So that is really cool. It just goes to show how useful and how beneficial a space like this is and what it can do for you. So, you know, if you are in a city where you're looking for this particular space, their website, quick disclosure before we get into what we're doing, their website is www.yourstudio.com, and I'll put this in the description box. You can see all of their locations. They have them all over the US, which is really, really great because a lot of times you'll only have these types of incubator, like large incubator engines, co working spaces in major cities. And sometimes we're not all in those cities, but this is one of those places where they've expanded, and they're also in Brazil. So if you want to go take a vacation and have a co working spot,
Those are really good spaces to go to for
yeah.
having a meeting, for working on your own projects. And then if you need to meet with somebody, like you were saying, for networking, um, that is so perfect, especially if you don't have an office, right? You go there and any city that's listed with them.
There's so much feedback on here. I'm trying to fix it. Um, if anyone has, has any like info on, you know, killing the feedback, and you guys know how to do that when you're recording on multiple devices, give us a holler because we've been trying to figure it out. I mean,
For me, it
disclaimer.
worked.
Sorry,
I
sorry,
lowered the
Kat.
volume. I lowered the volume on one device, and then I have the AirPods in. So far it's working,
Is it better?
but yeah, we need to get more tech savvy.
We do, and we want to do, you know, both the LinkedIn and the Instagram live for you guys at the same time. But you know, that's not our forte. But we got it. It's not bad. But
We'll get
if
there.
anyone has some tips, people who do this, who are, you know, super tech savvy, audio visual savvy, uh, give us a shout. Let us know how we can improve. But we don't mind that at all. So. All right, so I've blabbed enough about the space. I hope you guys can use that for something. But today we're actually getting really personal. So we're not gonna be throwing a whole lot of information and you know, steps and things like that like we've been doing. We're actually gonna be talking about, what are we talking about, Kat?
Your why. Why? Your why.
Why do you do this? Literally. Why are you here? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why did you decide to do whatever it is that you are on this to get inspiration for? Your business, anything, someone else's business, you're working with them, you're thinking of starting your own, you want to make a change in your life. Why are we doing that? How do we get into that? I mean, we both have our ways of how we got into it, but like, what is, if you had to start someone on that journey of knowing your why, where do we start?
Okay, so with the why, I've seen this in so many people when they're starting a business or a company or any kind of endeavor that they want to pursue or a goal, even if it's a project or some kind of creation that they're working on, anything really. There's a piece that you need to figure out ahead of time that's personal, like we were just saying,
Yeah.
as to why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you trying to make this product? Why are you trying to give out this service? Why are you trying to create this business? What is the point of this business? Why are you sacrificing all these hours? What is it all for? You know, so these
Yeah.
are questions that are important, and we need to ask those questions because they are the motivating factor for you continuing to do this work.
Yes.
So knowing your why,
Knowing
yeah, it's at the heart of everything.
it is, and sticking to it too. I think sometimes we know it initially. We all have a reason why we jump on something, but then as we get into it, we start to lose it. So I also wanted us to talk about not only knowing your why, but holding on to your why once you do know it and continuing to strengthen that why, because it really is the bedrock of everything. When you're failing, even when you're successful, so that you don't lose sight of why you actually started this. When success maybe goes to your head or it takes you in a different course that maybe isn't why you did this in the first place. If you want to change why you're doing something, that's one thing, but knowing why you're doing it is so important.
Right, there's so many books written on the subject, and I will have them in the description and a link. um, yeah, you have, I think you made a good point. You have to continually remind yourself about the why. There are people that actually put tattoos on their body just to remind themselves of why they do things. They'll put it
Yeah.
on their finger here or whatever,
Yeah.
and then
And
they'll do that, and they'll put signs up on their walls. They'll put reminders up in their cars. It's these little things that constantly remind you of why are you doing what you're doing. Because when you get wrapped up in all of this work that's happening, communicating with clients, just working on proposals and other reporting things, or trying to build your company better and maybe hiring people at the same time, it gets into your head. You're busy, you're running out of time in the day. So how are you going to stay motivated? How are you going to remember why you're doing this? Because there are going to be moments where you're going to just want to be like, screw this, I'm out, you know. It's too hard. Meanwhile, you just need to take a minute and just remember what you're doing all of this for. Some of the reasons might be you're doing this for your kids, you're doing this for your family. You're just doing it for yourself because you want to be the first person in your family that actually is successful at creating a business or creating an invention or a product that is super useful, or writing a book, you know. Why are you doing this? You need to write it down 1,000 times, put it somewhere where you're going to remember. What do you think, Maria? What do you want to add?
I I think I didn't get good at knowing my why until I was already in it. So from personal experience, I'll be honest, my why for starting TDM was survival. I was not originally doing anything language related or AI related, but I needed a way to make money, and I was actually in another career. I still had my arts career going, which I still do a lot of creative projects, but I really needed something to sustain myself. so that I could travel and get out from under my family's wings and like become an adult. Um, and I was finishing college early, so it was really sort of like sink or swim. I didn't want to have a regular job, and I really wanted to be able to have control over what I was doing. And I figured, I could do the like make enough to make it until I make it situation. And I was also moving from the DC area to New York. So that's actually how Kat and I met. She gave me one of my first big contracts in New York, and I mean, I owe her so much, and this is why we're doing this, because we've really been on that journey together in different ways, in different forms of relationships that have evolved. But it was a survival mechanism, I think. I think that's probably one of the first things you saw about me, it was just like trying to make stuff happen. It wasn't really like I have some big inspiration behind this.
No, but that's a reason. That's something that is a reason, and it grows into a purpose. So survival turns into a purpose.
Yeah, I learned that there were many ways that I could continue being who I am and not feeling like I'm like working to get a paycheck, and combining this with things that I do creatively that are creative projects. That's always another thing. Like, if you're doing more than one thing, do they make sense together? Are you like all over the place? How do you combine them? But languages was something that I could fall back on because I grew up with them. My family raised me up in languages. In my mother's family's houses, we didn't speak English. With my mother, most of the time, I still don't speak English all the time. It's usually like Dutch or Spanish or a mix of Dutch Creole, Portuguese Creole, Spanish, whatever comes out. Just and then English in the middle. But we keep our languages alive that way. So it was like naturally fall back on that. But it suddenly became like, this is really part of your identity. This can be something cool. This can be something inspiring. And after CAT, there were other contracts that I got through other word of mouth. And I started to realize like I can really do cool things with this, like in fashion and in arts, and I've been able to like intersect the different roads, and that became sort of a purpose of like being creative and still being independent. So now that is my why, like continuing to be an entrepreneur, which is what it turned me into. And I would have never thought that I would be that person. I just didn't think that I had the mind for it. I wasn't made to think that I had the mind for it until I proved myself wrong, and other people just agreed with me out of like, we see it. So sometimes that's your why, like figuring yourself out. Who are you? Like, what can you find about yourself? Who can you become? Is it, maybe part of who you want to be, and you just start to evolve into that? That can be your why. And sometimes that's motivating enough to keep you going when you have no clue what you're doing, because I certainly didn't. How about you, Kat?
No clue whatsoever. I still do stuff. I jump on the bandwagon and just try it and see if it works. And if it doesn't, go on to the next thing and just keep trying. And I'm motivated by my daughter, because I'm a single mom and I have a 13-year-old daughter. So I'm like, definitely want to make sure that she's taken care of, and she's also proud of the fact that she has a mom that's like in charge of a company here, and then she can work at the company. I'm also thinking about stuff like that for her, like she
My
could get
daughter's here logo.
she she's
Keep
very
that
talented.
up.
She's definitely very talented, and I want her to have the best opportunities out there. She's probably not going to want to work with me, but but she has that chance, she has that option. So I want her to have any opportunity out there. And also, I am the first person in my family to actually start a business. I have a lot of entrepreneurs in the family, but they did other things. They were salesmen, they were marketers, they did a bunch of stuff like that, but they didn't actually hold the business down. So I'm very excited about it. And plus, I'm the first one.
Or what happened?
No, it was in, like I mentioned this a few episodes ago, where like my great grandmother was a hustler in a market, she was doing sales and stuff like that.
That was our Women in Industry. Check that out
Yes.
on our pages if you guys want to see that. It's also on the YouTube channel. If you go on our LinkedIn pages, it'll take you to the YouTube channel. If you are interested in, just like boosting yourself as a woman in industry, we talked about that during Women's History Month, and I think Kat is planning to set something up where we're going to bring that topic back. So keep a lookout.
Yeah.
Shout out to
That'll be, I know, that'll be awesome.
yeah. We don't know what it is yet, so I certainly I think I'm going to give this one over to Kat. Like she's going to plan it out, but it'll come back. But we did do that. It was the very first podcast actually. That's podcast number 1, right?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was.
This is number 8, so go scroll down the feed to podcast number 1 if you're interested to check it out and share it with people because right now, women in industry is key.
Right. They're all over the place. I have family members that did the real estate stuff where they bought real estate, they bought property, but they're not using that as a business. So my why ends up being I'm the first one to actually commit to doing something and I'm determined to follow through with it. So that's another key thing where you want to make sure that part of your why is determination
Hmm.
and follow through. You have to be committed no matter what and to understand that there's going to be ups and downs.
Yeah.
You're going to have bad days. You're going to want to quit. You're going to want to just not get out of bed sometimes
Yeah.
and then remind yourself why you're doing it again.
Hmm.
And like Maria, you were saying there's several, like you can build yourself to the why. You grow as you continue working on this. So it's just important to think about, I think, as you go on, so that you don't forget where you started. And it's important for people that you mentioned, like the people that are already developed in their businesses and stuff like that. They also need to be reminded where they started and what their reasoning was, because sometimes if you forget, that entire company could be veered off track and go in a completely wrong direction.
Yes. Um, Actually, that point brings me to this. I'm thinking about what we're doing right now. It's certain what we're doing. This podcast series that we've been doing for the past 2 months has changed my why, because the way honestly it has it. We spoke about doing something like this months ago, and I think we actually for the very first time brought this up over a year ago. This whole idea of like KLC and TDM doing something together. And like almost 2 years later now, we have this podcast series that has been running strong, and people are, they're going to continue to hear about it because you guys are going to share. Thank you in advance. But it's changed my why because now it's like we can actually use our experience to help other people in ways that continue to grow us, and it's not just about like creating some kind of self-help podcast series for entrepreneurs because there's plenty of that. But we're two women from different backgrounds, different parts of similar industries of contracting in general, come together and have formed a friendship and are able to like build on business. Guys, that's rare. I mean, it doesn't happen often. It usually becomes a competition or it becomes something where you start and you lose touch, or I mean, Kat and I being friends this long and being able to come together and do this is such a gift. And if we can just impart that and share that with you guys, that is enough of a why for me. So just doing this has changed my why.
Me too. It motivates me.
Yeah.
And reaching out to people to help people in any way, just listening, just having them listen to this conversation and all of our conversations is very important. I love working with you. You are the one that motivated me about the name of my company. Hello, KLC. That was Maria.
I was so hype about that. I thought she was gonna be like, "Please leave me alone," but she did.
No, I was like, no,
Because
I'm
that
gonna
was
keep
so
it.
perfect. Because actually, can you tell them the story, the background, like what it actually means? And originally, I wanted to use her initials because I was like,
Yeah,
practicing electric consulting, and she
yeah.
then turned that into this symbolic meaning that I don't want to mess up. So, do you mind explaining to
Oh,
them what KLC actually Clifton Lark stands for?
well, it was hard to come up with. Clifton Lark. I'm what's it called? So KLC, like you said, was supposed to be my name and the consulting firm, and then it took me a while to figure out how to change it. And you're probably wondering, like, why would I want to change it? Well, first of all, I didn't want my name to be out in public.
Creative.
I didn't want to be out there. I wanted something unique, and I was out walking around. I saw a bird and a lark. It's a lark. So I saw the. So I think the bird is the motivating thing right there in the L, and Clifton is made me think of being up on an actual cliff. So bird on a cliff, reaching to new heights, trying to explore, the heavens, that type of thing. So that's where Clifton Lark happened. And then so I used the K for the cliff, and nobody else has that name. So
No, they don't. And it's really cool. When she told me that she had decided to name Clifton Lark Consulting, I was so excited. It was just like, super cool. I don't know what it means,
I
but I
think you
love
said
it.
it sounds like a football player.
Oh no,
Go Clifton
I
Lark.
yeah, I immediately thought of like cheering. I don't know. I don't know,
It
guys.
made me like, it's awesome.
My mind goes to like extreme places when I'm like super hype about something. I thought of for her because we're still working on creating more audiovisual content for you guys. So I thought of for her one of her logos. They could be it could be an action logo. Like sometimes you see websites will have their logos and they're like actual like gifs that are moving like mini videos. So I just thought of having like a linebacker. You're like Clifton Look, Clifton Look, KLC. It's like it would be a great cheer. It would be so good because Kat is always cheering people on. Like if she gets into your business, she's not only pushing you hard, but she's also cheering you on. Like she's holding you accountable while she's cheering. Like she's like got a whip and a pom pom.
Oh my God.
But
Too
it's
much.
great. Okay, was that too much? I'm sorry, but no, it's. I mean, it is, but in a good way. It's you're that person, and
And-
you always have been. I mean, I've known you for now almost 10 years, 9 years. You've always been like that. Never changed.
wow, we should probably have an anniversary dinner.
We should. I'm coming to DC.
Totally. Well, why don't you tell them about how awesome your company name is? Because I thought it was brilliant when I first heard it.
Okay, so my company name is based off of my name too, in a similar way that Kat's company's name is. So my first name is Maria del Mar, and in layman English, Maria del Mar means Queen of the Sea, Mary of the Sea. It's a very traditional Spanish name. My mother grew up in Barcelona and always knew she wanted to name her daughter Maria del Mar, and I'm her only daughter, so I got the name. And so I decided to combine it with translation. There are companies that are large LSPs and other language service providers that are involved in all kinds of tech ventures and language rolled into it, like Transperfect, transatlantic translations. There's a lot of that out there. So I thought, well, I could use that, but then make it unique so that I stand out as well. So I put the two together. I put Trans and Del Mar together and then incorporated. And that's how I came up with Trans Del Mar Inc. And for short, it's TDM. And
Mhm.
I thought that that would be like a cool acronym to like run around with. So both of our logos actually so you can see how we kind of think alike. Both of our logos are they're not like a picture or like a graphic. It's just our initials. And I told Kat that I really liked that look, and I think Kat and her daughter, you guys are working on like a more
Yeah.
graphic based logo, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But I think I'll keep both. And also, did you realize just now that you're Queen of the Sea and I got the mountains?
Yes, that's awesome.
I'm on land, you're on sea.
Yay. Yes, I love the in
And
love
I
with
think,
the water.
and metaphorically, like we can help each other that way because if I need to get across the sea, I call Maria to
So I need
to work with her and she can work with me on land. So metaphorically, yeah,
That's
yeah, we're
so. Why
corny.
don't we give them some of our thoughts on what happens when, right now we're both on a high about what we're doing. We're in a good place. We're working hard. We've been working virtually together the entire pandemic. But when things are going really wrong, like what are we holding on to then? How are
Yeah,
we, is what becomes of your why? Have you ever completely dropped your why and had to pick it up again? I mean, how do you handle that for yourself?
I haven't had to drop it. I've had a lot of stuff happening recently where it's just taking up a lot of my time instead of doing the business.
Yeah.
So that's actually been irritating because I want to continue focusing on the business. So I don't see how it would work with me at this point in time. I was just trying to make sure I find enough time to get back to my business because I am super motivated to making sure that I grow it to where I have lots and lots of clients that I can help and go from there. But
Yeah.
speaking of that, there's a lot of things that can happen in your personal life that can affect the business, right? Something can happen. You can have somebody, God forbid, a car crash, somebody might get sick. That's going to slow your business down. That might demotivate you.
Yeah.
So how do you continue getting through that? Do you even continue getting through that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that can happen. You might be working another job while trying to build this and then you get laid off. Like, are you gonna continue the business? Or are you gonna look for another job? And when you find another job, are you gonna like do 100% on the job and nothing on the business? So you have to have that determination, I think, and follow through to see the vision
Yeah.
beyond the now.
Yeah.
Like what would you add to that?
I think that's it too. I've spent a lot of time during the pandemic trying to understand more about my own energy and the idea that the situation I'm in, I I'm responsible for it and my outlook on it and perspective. I don't get too much into like just always be positive, always be positive. I am a realist, so I do like to acknowledge what the problem is. Like or like if I'm angry, like I allow myself to be angry. If I'm sad, I allow myself to be sad. But I do so knowing that like if I allow myself to have this moment, I can get through it and get back to how I want to be or where I want to be. And so I've had to develop that because there were times where I actually thought, first of all, I may have started this with like not enough experience, just off of a whim. So from the get go, I didn't set this thing up anyway, correctly at all. So it's going,
None of us do. No one does.
but you think these things because especially when you hear other people's stories. So I've and that's another thing. Like in holding on to my why, I've learned how to take in information and how to listen to other people's testimonials and not immediately project onto myself unnecessarily because I'm not them. But before that happens, you're just someone is like, oh, I had this investment or I saved up and then I started. Everyone has their story, like however they started. I did it through school, blah blah blah. And knowing that I started this as a survival mechanism and I've turned it into something that can become a power tool for other businesses and other collaborations like this and in some of the ventures that we're not going to mention yet, but things that Kat and I are working on that are really more in the direction of AI, something that I did not start with. Building up to that and like using it for other ventures and connecting with other people, you know, there were times where I just thought I would never get there or money wasn't coming in. I've had clients, their business shut down. Even during the pandemic, I lost a few clients because they closed down. They weren't able to sustain themselves. And we had like big contracts coming up. So it was like a lot of money bags that were lost. And it's like, well, how do you sustain that? So there were, periods where there was no work, like nothing. Um, and so, you know, sometimes when you're taking in other people's stories and you're listening to, I'll talk about myself. When I was listening to other people and hearing how they did stuff, or just, reading about it, even looking for answers for myself, and I would read whatever information I was taking in, I'd start to like sort of beat myself up, like, I should have done this differently, or like maybe I need to stop and like shift gears, or maybe I need to go get a regular job doing something maybe language related or like admin related, or maybe I just need to like, I don't know, whatever, shift gears and start this whole thing over. I had to realize that like I really didn't want to do that. So if I did that, I wouldn't be giving them an honest version of myself. It would really be like, where's the check? Like, I'm not even here for this. So I didn't want to go into someone else's space that way, because I didn't want to be in my own life like that. I didn't want to be in my own body, in my own mind, functioning that way. And I definitely didn't want to have that happen to me. So I kind of just, thought ahead and was like, somebody might eventually come onto my team, other contractors that I have working with me, and they're like, I'm just here for the check. And you see it in their work. And it's like, I don't want to attract that, so I'm not going to give that to someone. So I just, really like had to dig down into my soul and say, like, I know that this is going to flip. Like, I maybe need to change how I'm working, shift, like, maybe be patient. Maybe I don't need to do anything. Sometimes we're just doing too much. Like, we're actually getting in our own way. And I've
Right.
realized that happens too. So I looked at all of that in myself, and I just really, decided on what I felt, what I believed. I knew it was going to flip. I knew things were going to change. I knew that I'm constantly putting things out there. I'm constantly putting work out there. We're always connecting. Kat and I, we've been working together this whole pandemic nonstop. Even when we had too much going on, when we had nothing going on, we were always like, communicating, feeding each other things, just doing stuff.
Right.
Um, and those seeds, you water them and they do grow, but it's sort of like sometimes things are like a bamboo plant. They're not, grass. Different plants, they work differently, but either way you're seeding your garden. And I really had to just ground down on that belief and hold on to it and watch it grow. And sometimes I've learned in holding on to my why, just back off, just like back off of myself and just like really take a step back and breathe, because I might just be getting in my own way.
That's a good point. Let things come naturally to you. Attract. I think the key word was attract.
Attract, and don't, because it's kind of like, driving. You're so busy going somewhere that you're like running into the guardrail because you're like trying to move things out of your way. You're like literally crashing your own car.
Right. So that also goes into being resourceful and understanding that sometimes if one way is not working, then there's always a different way to get something done as well. So having a clear mindset,
Mm-hmm.
super important. Understanding that there are multiple ways of getting to the same destination, also important.
Important, yeah. And just
And
in the space to see that too. Like, sometimes, how do you see that when you're so head heavy?
right. We were talking about writing stuff down and creating a vision board for yourself, getting that stuff out of your head and onto a piece of paper that you can focus on, or a board or anything. It could be a mind map. There's mindmap.com, I think. Is it mind mapper, mind mapping?
I think I haven't tried it yet. Have you been on it?
Mindmeister. I think it's mindmeister.com.
I'm
Um,
yes right now. Do you mind?
yeah, go ahead. So that is an online version of being able to brainstorm and map your ideas and think ahead and just get that stuff that Maria was talking about out of your head, because if it's in your head, it's not going to go anywhere. You have ideas, but putting them onto something that you can look at will actually help you manifest them faster.
It
So
is, sir.
yeah, MindMeister.
Sorry,
I've used that before. So super helpful. That is so bright, Maria.
I'm sorry. Okay.
We'll put
Um,
that in the links. MindMeister. So it totally has like diagrams and icons and stuff you can put anywhere. Very creative.
yeah. more links to add for you guys. I think that's really key. And honestly, that's something you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. So it's not a skill that you're going to suddenly master and never have to touch on again. It will be a continuous thing because life ebbs and flows. And when you get through one situation, you go through one scenario, you're really just setting yourself up to enter the next. So whatever you've learned in that situation, you are either carrying with you and having to constantly maintain, or you're on to the next part of the lesson. And it's not something that you just, one day you're like, I'm done learning.
No, you constantly learn.
Yeah, you're constantly learning. And it's like keys like this. And again, like I know there's a lot of people, and I relate to that, who during the pandemic are just very sick of the overwhelming amounts of like, it's not, I don't have a better word for it, the self-help and the, let's kumbaya everything. It's not, and I know it gets annoying because you're just, sometimes I just want to be like, I'm enraged, I cannot kumbaya right now, or I feel desperate, or I feel hopeless, or I don't have the answer, I don't know what I'm doing, I have no guidance. Not everybody is open, so a lot of us are still, around the world, still dealing with a very real pandemic situation. So, there's some of us, like New York, things are a little more hopeful here. In DC, things are a little bit more hopeful. Vaccines are rolled out, but that is not the case around the world. And I acknowledge that, and it's a real thing. And there are a lot of emotions that come along with that, a lot of things that will transfer over into your work and personal life. And it's not about, sweeping things under the rug or kumbayaing or like, putting sugar on it. It's really just learning to control your own destiny, control your own situation, and don't let other people do it for you. But in learning to control your situation, you are a light to other people. You have interactions like this. You start to build things like this where you feed off of each other the way Kat and I are doing now. It's not, by no means has this pandemic been easy for us. I mean, we just told you, but it's been good to work on ourselves because we didn't do it to help each other, but it helped. It's like you help yourself, you do help other people. You don't have to say, I'm doing this to help 1,000 people. Inevitably, by helping yourself, learning to control yourself, being great, being your own master, you will be that for others. It's just how the universe works. And it's magical. And it's that community effect, that global feeling that we live in that you hear so much. It just happens. That's why people talk about it, because it's real.
It is real. And I totally believe in that. Knowing your why helps you create an energy force field around yourself. And I don't want to sound like a crazy person,
because we talk about it, like, oh, there's so much of that.
But it really is a thing where, those people that you walk around, like get next to, and they have good vibes and stuff, that you automatically know that's what your why does for you. Understanding and having that clarity will help you attract what you are looking for. Yeah. So you'll have the clients, you'll have the business ideas, you'll have revelations. So we constantly need to work on refining ourselves, thinking about what the why is, building on that why. It can change. It's okay if it changes. And you have to understand you need to let yourself grow and not close yourself off from the world. Stay open, accept things as they come. The universe sends opportunities your way. Jump on those opportunities. Don't push them aside, because somebody else will take that opportunity. So do it. Just go for it.
Yeah. That's really, we did end up teaching today.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's good. I think we also we talk to everybody, and we talk to everybody, to ourselves as well. Like we remind ourselves as well to do the same thing. So we are actually doing it with you.
Yeah, this is and I know that that especially on LinkedIn, you guys have come back and left a lot of good feedback and shared reposts.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Please continue to do that. We really do want to grow a network where it's not just us, but eventually including people. And like we've been saying from the start, we want to create a dialogue, and you guys are helping us do that in the comments, and we really appreciate that because we want to keep that going. But we really do vibe off of that, and yeah, I can't say it enough. This knowing your why, it's everything. It's and we've said this before too. Don't force yourself to come up with an answer. Just have the intention to look for one. Have the intention to eventually know what your why is. And that is key, like your intention behind something and then executing it, or really seeing it, having clarity on it. It does way more than you realize sometimes, like I said, it's the not doing, just like being part of it is important too.
Very well said.
Thank you. I mean, that's all I've got today. I think this is like such a profound topic that I don't know. I don't want to like. It's deep, but I hope that you guys I hope it hits home with you guys as much as it does with us, because it is our talks on this, the talks we've had in private with each other while we've been working on proposals and whatnot. It's been immense, and it's changed me a lot over the pandemic.
I think if you've made it to the end of this vodcast, watching this,
Yeah.
I would probably ask you, if you haven't figured out your why, to take some time after maybe 10-15 minutes, write some ideas down, the words that pop into your head, just words that pop into your head as you're thinking about your business, and just throw them out on paper, and you'll just see where your mind is going with that. So do a brain dump and see where it takes you. Yeah, brain dump. Yeah, and it's gonna help, and I think you need to do that every so often to see where you're going, with your business, with your life in general, but check in with yourself. Yeah, that's all I got as well, because I think we drilled it enough into you guys.
This topic is deep for both of us. I know we're like, it really hits home, but we will be back next week.
Yes, I'm so excited already. I'm always excited.
We have a surprise topic, so we will announce that in the middle of the week. And we are going to continue the series. And again, we're happy you guys are here with us. Even if you watch this after the fact, it doesn't matter. We're just happy that you're checking out the content. And some of your comments have inspired us to create other content. So please do continue that, because we are here for it.
Yay. Thank you so much, Maria. As always, you are amazing.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, we're also, please stick around for this or tune in later. We're also going to be doing more on these spaces, back to what I brought up in the beginning. We talked about incubator spaces and co-working spaces, and we are now working with one that are in both of our locations, so tune in for that. That's
Awesome sauce.
awesome sauce. All right, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.